All right, I am going to call the Neary Building Committee meeting to order for Monday, August 1st, 2022 at 7:03 p.m. I'll note we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 voting members present out of our 9 in total. First item on the agenda is the approval meeting minutes from June 21st, 2022 for that short meeting we had about a month ago. Are there any questions or comments on this? I am seeing none. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, we will do a roll call vote. Braccio,
Aye.
Donato,
Aye.
Eddie,
Aye.
Martin,
Aye.
Pfaff,
Aye.
and Malinowski is aye. So that's 6-0. Next item, and really the main reason to meet, was today commenced our official entrance into the eligibility period. And I will turn the floor over to Greg to give an update on what's to come.
So first of all, I apologize I was late, but thank you. Actually, today is an important milestone, August 1st. So we start the process officially as we begin the eligibility period. Earlier in July, I believe Mark received an email from MSBA outlining the steps in the process for eligibility. There are 9 steps in the process or tasks to complete. The first step is really about eligibility period system access. So making sure that we have access to MSBA's system where we'll submit all of our forms. So that task has been completed. So Keith and I have primary access. And we also needed to complete the initial compliance certificate, which we sent to MSBA and basically sent it through DocuSign. So that is all set. That task is completed. And then the next task was completing the Neary Building Committee, which the Select Board and the School Committee completed this past spring. So we sent the appropriate paperwork into MSBA, so that is all set. The next set of tasks are in process. We have to submit an educational profile questionnaire, and we have 90 days to submit that. Stephanie, Keith, and I are working on that document, and it's not a heavy lift, but we should have that done early September. There's an online enrollment projection, which is the next task. I have started that task, and I am working with Mark on getting the number of home building permits needed, but due to all the work that was done over the past year and a half with Jason and I won't even try to remember the name of the committee, the Capital Planning Subcommittee.
School Research Subcommittee.
Yeah, so we have, we're in a good place with that documentation, and I have started that, and I'm waiting for some data. The next task is enrollment certification executed. So that's just once we have all the data and we feel comfortable as a committee, it just needs to be certified and submitted. Another task is the maintenance and capital planning information. So Keith is looking at that data and compiling that, and that should be completed mid-September. And then lastly, we have 2 other tasks, which is the local vote authorization, which that is the vote for the feasibility. So again, that task is completed, and we're working on making sure we have the appropriate paperwork. And then the 9th task is the feasibility study agreement, which we need to just verify and make sure we have the correct form. And it's more of a paperwork process, which we are working with MSBA and understanding that better. So all in all, we have 270 days to complete those 9 tasks. I would imagine we'll be done completed those tasks at the latest by the end of September. So I think we're in a great shape. And it's just a matter of, I think, completing the educational profile questionnaire, the online enrollment, and the maintenance and capital planning. MSBA has also requested a meeting with the district. So Keith, Becky, and I will be meeting with MSBA in the next couple of weeks. Jason, I might invite you just to sit in, just so you have information and represent the town. But that is yet to be scheduled. Cheryl's working with MSBA on finding a date. And basically that is where we are as of August 1st. So not too bad for the first day of our eligibility period. We're way ahead of where we should be at this point in time.
Jason, can I ask a question? Thank you. So Greg, it's great that we're going to be done in September, way ahead of the 270 days, but is there any benefit other than just being done to that?
Yes, so we want to get in front of the MSBA board as quickly as possible so we can be invited into the next phase. So I think the faster we move, the timeline is condensed. And basically, Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, what MSBA shared with us is that they'll move as quickly as we can move. So if we need all 270 days, then we could use those 270 days. But if not, they will work with us. So I think we should target, the fall. I believe we have an October board meeting and a December, maybe early January meeting to get in front of the board for consideration into the next phase.
Okay, great. Thank you. And thank you for you and your team's hard work. I'm getting quite a few of these tasks already completed and the rest in process.
Go ahead, Qatar.
Thanks. So I have a couple of things. I apologize if I miss seeing it somewhere. Is there somewhere where there's a list of these tasks that we can kind of look at and sort of see that, like track them as they're being done, or how are we,
So and I can provide this to Jason. So internally we met kind of as a district team and came up with a task and deliverable days and due date status and responsible parties. So I'll share that with Jason, and Jason can share that out or make it into something a little bit more of the committees.
Okay.
Yeah, in control, I'll just add on to it. That's obviously whatever document Greg has would be an internal document. I candidly, every time we have a meeting, I open up the MSBA website and have their 9-step eligibility. So I will send that link along to everyone too, just so they have it handy. So because there are hyperlinks within that to give more details on what they're looking for each of these items along the way. And obviously we're in a phase here where there's probably not a ton of committee involvement because this is where you're supposed to be setting up the committee, but this is where a committee would typically come into play based on their timing.
Okay, perfect. That'll be great. I was just looking for some sort of visual to keep track of all. I mean, I have notes and everything, but just the official list. So that would be great. And then with the enrollment projection, I'm just curious. So Greg, you said it's an online enrollment projection. Are we using any of the information that came out of the last subcommittee process, or is it like a completely fresh look and then they come up with their own enrollment projection?
So the enrollment projections are pre-populated, and then we make comments and notes based on the data that we have and certify the data that we want to submit. And then I'm sure we enter into a conversation with MSBA. But most of the data sets are pre-populated. Mm-hmm. And what we're doing is we're looking at RLS enrollment study and also thinking about current birth rates and what we're projecting moving forward.
Yeah, because there are at least 2 new housing developments that have been are starting to get rolling. I don't think they're permitted quite yet, but that I think we'd want to keep those in mind as we're going forward since we last looked at this anyway. So. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
Jason, if I could add, they do ask for are there any building projects that are being projected in the future? So that is something that they look at when they consider future enrollment.
Were there any other questions? I have a few comments to add on, but I just wanted to see if anyone had any questions on what Greg has said to date. So I guess, Greg, one question, and if you don't have the data handy, if you could just follow up with the committee. Obviously, the work that the school research subcommittee had done previously had projections for kindergarten, and we were finalizing this right around enrollment time period. Do you have any sense for Southborough where that's landing in terms of how well RLS had that pegged, or what the data is telling you at this point?
I think it was, I don't have the enrollment projection sheet in front of me. I do have it in my office. It was fairly close, Jason. It wasn't askew, plus or minus 5. But I can take a look at it. It wasn't off by much. And we're still obviously enrolling students in the month of August. So typically there are a cohort of families who wait or don't know they're moving until, the last 2 weeks of August. So we're keeping an eye on it, but it's been fairly accurate thus far.
But it's safe to say that you aren't making any last minute scrambles to add or subtract the classroom based on whatever you were projecting.
No.
And that's obviously what drives a lot of our space needs.
Yep.
So my second question / confirmation is, in the last meeting, you talked about on the educational profile that it would require input from the community in some way, shape, or form. Do you have a vision of, thinking ahead? You said you're hoping to have that completed end of September. I could see this committee, that being our primary role based on the tasks that you outlined. Everything else seems kind of in good hands, and no need for us to intervene, so to say. Do you have a sense of what you would envision in terms of a public meeting and when that could occur, and you'd be ready for that, realizing that the start of school is hectic for 1,000 other reasons?
No, I think what I'd recommend, Jason, is if we actually print out the questionnaire and provide that to you, and then potentially have another building committee just for the purpose of how to best complete that form, that questionnaire, and seek community input.
Is it a leap to say that it's going to ask questions around number of grades in a school, ideal configuration, and community type support around that, like thinking through some of the other conversations we're having? Or is it just purely class size, auditorium, no auditorium, that sort of stuff?
Types of experiences we want students to have: music, art, physical education, types of spaces. It doesn't dive into grade configuration necessarily.
Okay. Okay. And then this is more of an FYI for the committee, and we'll probably have more details once you have that kickoff call with MSBA. But I remember in the initial conversation where we were invited, when we got selected into eligibility, they had basically said we need to have town council review that final document, which is basically if we were to move forward into feasibility. And it sounded like there is back and forth that, while I'm sure there's a template, I'm sure certain towns think about it different ways. So just as more of an FYI for the committee, we did request of Mark, given that this would be a town document, access to town council, so that when the time comes that we're ready to discuss, and I would assume he has a breadth of experience with other communities in MSBA, that this committee had access to that sort of support. Go ahead, Lisa.
I can wait till you're done, Jason. I just wanted
I'm
to.
good. Yeah, I'm good.
Oh, okay. Just actually a question for you and Katura potentially is, on the prior enrollment study that was done, there was a project that was submitted, went through the permitting phase and was appealed. Do you know were any projections done within the enrollment study that incorporated that site as it was at the time? No. Okay.
So the way it was done, Lisa, is it's a categorical no, that specific project wasn't considered.
Okay.
But if you look at RLS's spreadsheet, there's like a baseline, and then
Okay.
there's a minus 10% and a plus 10%. So there were numbers that floated around during the process of what that could look like, but there was no independent validation because of obviously the proceedings that you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was the case, Jason. I just wasn't sure. So thank you.
Are there any other questions on the next steps on the process? Okay. Is there any public comment? Okay. So let's talk about meeting schedule. So I think the purpose of the next meeting would be to review the educational question, maybe not completed, obviously, Greg, but the questions and see where the committee could be helpful and give some thought to it before you just send over the blank. Like if there are certain things as you, Keith, and the team look at it and say, I'd really like the committee to focus on this. We've got the others handled through, administrative staff. I think that would be helpful. I don't know when you think you'd be ready for that. Obviously realizing we're now 3 to 4 weeks out from start of school. So really we'll take your lead on thinking through your delivery dates, thinking through everything else that your team's going to be dealing with. If you want to throw out when you think that would be, then we can anchor to a date and you may say you want to come back to me on that. That's totally fine too.
Yeah, let me have a conversation with Dr. Reinhorn, Keith, and Becky internally.
Okay.
We haven't spent a ton of time actually diving into all of the forms. I'm thinking, Jason, just kind of as a time window, maybe mid-September. That way we'll have many of these documents that we actually can bring back to the committee for review before we actually press submit on any of these tasks.
That makes sense. All right, so we will follow up. It sounds like Mondays are still going to be the best nights for meeting based on the fact that most other people sitting here have other commitments on other nights for other meetings. So we will try to anchor to a Monday unless I hear otherwise from any of you. Under other business, I just thought I would mention it as an FYI. Any of you that see some of the news flashes that come from the town, the select board is they did approve a charge for a community center exploration committee, which was part of the master plan. It obviously came out of the other discussion, and they are starting to seat representatives on that committee. There is a designated member of capital planning, recreation, council on aging, and the library. And then there are currently 3 public at-large seats. And the charge, I believe, is posted on the website, but if anyone needs it. But obviously the work of that committee may at some point intersect with the work of this committee based on some of the questions that the MSBA has asked in prior iterations. The important thing I'll just note is the charge as written asks for the committee to explore options with and without the use of Woodward, because it'll allow from a the main genesis of this came from capital planning was to understand the cost ramifications of any option that comes forward. And as we start to put kind of the pieces of this puzzle together. So that's more of an FYI, and we probably will have some updates along the way as we go into the fall on that, but not one member has been seated yet. So it's probably a month or so away before a meeting is my guess. Any other business that anyone wants to take care of tonight? All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
there a second?
Second.
All right, we will do a roll call vote. Brascio?
Aye.
Donato?
Aye.
Eddie?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye.
Pfaff?
Aye.
And Malinowski's aye. Have a good night, everyone.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Enjoy the rest of your
Have a nice
summer.
You too.
Andrew,
Bye.
I will get that data to you that you requested. But so I do have it. So I'll send it over to you tomorrow.
Cool, thanks.
And Denise, I did get your email.
Oh.
So
Good.
I will be following up with you. Would love to meet your granddaughter and learn more. So,
Wants to present her petition to you,
yeah,
even though it's probably not going anywhere.
well, we'll see.
The
We'll
moment.
see. So,
All right.
Thanks a
everybody.
lot.
You never
Have a good night.
know.
Have a nice summer,
you
everybody.
too. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye-bye.